All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take this one nice and slow. Hopefully, I can get my voice warmed up a little bit. I haven't fully thought this out in recent memory, but this is a video I wanted to make quite a while ago, especially when I was like ranking and getting ganked by Smog, the Fire Mage, like a couple months back. But I never actually did a Paladin versus Mage guide, like PvP guide. Primarily because the only real way any of us could figure out how to beat mages was to basically outplay them or surprise them or trick them, usually with like reflectors or the like. We needed to have them make a mistake, or we needed to do something a little gimmicky on our end to get them to make a mistake in order to effectively kill them. And subsequently, the best possible guide for beating mages as a paladin was to never actually make a guide, so that mages kind of didn't really... I didn't want the paladin community to have like a set way they go about trying to fight mages, because once the mages figure that out, then we'll just lose, right? But having seen some stuff in recent times, because again, I was doing a bunch of ranking. I did rank 13 like 3 months ago, I think. That's not quite true. Like sometime in the winter or the spring. Yeah, I was ranking in the spring, I remember now. I noticed some things like the mechanics of gnomish mind control cap. The Horde love using that stuff, and a few other noticeable things in game, such as the length of time you have to be out of combat before you can swap items is only 6 seconds in World of Warcraft. It's not 10 seconds like on private servers, and that kind of changed some things around. So as it turns out, there's actually multiple ways to deal with mages, and I'm just going to slowly go through them and talk about it in general, if that makes any sense. But I do believe I have figured out at least two definitive ways that we can actually beat mages, and I'll point out that the talent trees that a mage is using doesn't really matter. All that really matters is, do they have ice block or not? Yes or no. And do they have ice barrier or not? Yes or no. Ice block can be taken on just about any mage there is. The only mage that cannot take ice block are Palm Pyro mages. Palm Pyro mages, you can easily tell a Palm Pyro mage, because what will happen is they try to jump on top of you. They try to physically get on top of you, hit you with a counterspell. They usually have improved counterspell. If you see an improved counterspell come out of a mage, you automatically know they don't have ice block. Let me see if I can show you that real fast here. Okay, so we're going to the talent calculator, right? So improved counterspell is all the way down here. Get some points in here. Improved Counterspell is all the way down here. What is that? 17 points into the Mage tree. And then the Palm Pyro is just a little ways away. Okay, so now we have Palm Pyro. We're at our 21 talent point. Go away. Just piss off. So this is what makes you a Palm Pyro is presence of mind. But you can also see that they have improved Counterspell. So if you ever see improved Counterspell, you know for a virtual absolute certainty that they also have presence of mind, because why the hell would you come all the way down here into the arcane tree and not pick up presence of mind? Improved counterspell just means it silences the target for 4 seconds. That's why they try to get physically on top of you, on top of a bunch of other stuff. But you can also already see that they can't actually make it down here to ice block all that well. So for example, if I just start putting points into our mage tree here, yeah, that's 5. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You can see they can make it to ice block, but it's super painful, and they're actually missing out on a bunch of stuff here. When activated, your spell deals 30% more damage while costing 30. Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, you almost never see a Palm Pyro build that also has ice block. The primary reason, of course, is because, like, Arcane Power. When activated, your spells deal 30% more damage while costing 30% less mana to cast. This effect lasts 15 seconds. That's coming at the cost of Ice Block, and Palm Pyro is usually almost always about jumping on top of people and then nuking them out of existence. So it's not that this isn't a thing, that this isn't a build, but you almost never see it. And that's actually Student Performer. I didn't actually realize they could get both Ice Block and Presence of Mind, but you got to give up Arcane Power. That's really bad. So anyways, why is that important? Well, the only thing that actually keeps mages from dying horrifyingly to paladins, particularly Reckoning Paladins. We're only going to talk about Reckoning Paladins here for now, but Deep Ret, everything I'm about to say here can also be used by Deep Ret. Drakova often considers Deep Ret to have a easier time of it in a 1v1 versus a mage than Reckoning, but Reckoning can definitely get the job done pretty easily. Okay, so like I said, I was going to take my time. We're going to chill here a little bit. Okay, so why do they die if they don't have Ice Block? Well, oh, it's not Ice Block that does it. It's actually Cold Snap. Where the hell is Cold Snap? Cold Snap. Okay, yeah, we get Ice Block. Improved. Where's Cold Snap? Where you at? Okay, Cold Snap's here. Okay, cool. Just checking. Okay, so why do they die? Well, if they don't have Ice Block, what this basically means is that if you get on top of them, basically, if you so much as touch a mage as a paladin, there's almost a 100% guaranteed chance that they're dead. And the reason for this is because Deep Ret Paladins can repeatedly touch mages without Ice Block. And then Reckoning Paladins only need to touch the mage once and then the mage explodes, basically, right? And those two scenarios are virtually identical to each other. The Deep Ret Paladin is just going to keep touching the mage until eventually he gets a good RNG and the mage just dies horribly. The other thing to note is that, like, a lot of fire mages don't have Ice Block, but you can definitely get fire mages with Ice Block. Like, if we come back over here, the 31 talent point in the mage tree is just absolutely terrible. So a lot of a fire mage that I respect doesn't actually take the 31 talent point at all. They don't even they might take the firepower stuff, but instead of taking the 31 talent point, they just get their final point into Ice Block. So you might end up running into fire mages with Ice Block and Cold Snap, but the thing about that is they don't have Ice Barrier. Now, this is an important thing to note in Classic World of Warcraft. A mage in full tier 2 has about 22% armor, and they have 4,200 HP. Okay, if you go build one in the gear planner, I'm being dead serious, and you're building it more of like a PvP style, so you're emphasizing HP over a lot of other, like, you know, offensive stuff that you could otherwise take. Mages have 4,200 hit points, and they have a whopping 22% armor, basically. By the time they get into tier 2, they have, wait for it, 4,200 HP and 22% armor. So they just have more, they don't even have more spell power, they just have more crit. So the only difference between a mage in tier 2 and a mage in PvP gear or whatever, the only thing that changes is crit. When you go into Nax, total spell power doesn't change. It's just crit, and that's the same for everybody, which is really, really nice. Because paladins and so forth gain HP bonuses, and all the spellcasters just gain critical strike bonus, as opposed to more spell power to the point where the game breaks. So what this means is that fire mages don't have Ice Barrier, and because they don't have Ice Barrier, they've only got 4,200 HP. Even a Holy Reckoning Paladin can delete that mage out of existence relatively easily. So fire mages are at extreme risk of dying horribly to basically any paladin in the game, just because they don't have a lot of HP, and they may or may not have Ice Block, which is really, really bad. The mages that do have Ice Block, you kind of have to get yourself through about 5,000 HP. This number can escalate somewhat. It depends on, like, what kind of barriers do they have up. Do they have the physical damage barrier, except it costs you mana, So that'll absorb an extra like 400 hit points, but it also consumes like to like 800 or 900 mana or something like that. The mages have a number of wards, but they can only have one ward up at a time. The problem is you almost never see wards because they have 30-second CDs, like Fire Ward here. So you can see it says Mage. 30-second cooldown, 320 mana, absorbs 920 fire damage, lasts 3 seconds. Mages can only really have one ward up at a time. But if you're like wielding Hand of Rag or something and they're smart enough to throw up Fire Ward, then hats off to them. A lot of paladins, when they burst on mages, we use a lot of fire damage, so we'll use things like Goblin Mortar, we'll use Goblin Sapper Charge. We may or may not have a Hand of Rag. Not the worst thing in the world for them to throw up a Fire Ward. You almost never see it though. It's a cold, rare day in hell before you ever see a ward get thrown up on a mage. And part of the problem for them is they have to deal with Ice Barrier, they have to deal with Mana Barrier, they have to deal with the wards. Like Ice Barrier is falling off every 60 seconds. The Mana Barrier, I think, is falling off every like 60 seconds. And then Fire Ward wants to fall off every 30 seconds. It's just too much for them to keep up at any given point in time. And it's really difficult for them to have all that during the flow of combat, like how things work. So 9 times out of 10, you're dealing with a Fire Mage. He'll have the Mana Barrier up, which is like plus 400 HP. You're dealing with the Frost Mage. They'll usually only have Ice Barrier up. But they won't have the Mana Barrier up for a number of reasons that are a little difficult to get into. But basically, one of the loss conditions specifically for a Frost Mage is you hit them, they didn't die, but they lost so much mana from being hit because they have the Mana Barrier. Is it actually called Mana Barrier? If I can find it, I will here. Mana Barrier? No. But if I search barrier, I'll find it. Damn it. Barrier. Really? So I can't spell barrier is what you're trying to tell me. Search. There's lots of barriers. Ice Barrier. Okay, well, I don't know what it is then. Shield. Oh, God, there's going to be a lot of shields, aren't there? Like, even items are going to pop up here. Yeah, screw that. Professions, quest, abilities. Okay, I'm going somewhere here. Mana Shield. Please, you piece of shit. Okay, so it's Mana Shield, not Mana Barrier. Roger that. Alright. Okay. Rank 6 is the maximum. Alright, cool. Absorb almost 600 physical damage, draining mana instead. Drains 2 mana per point. Absorb lasts 1 minute. Yeah. So you got the Mana Barrier. It costs 140 mana just to put it up on yourself. It falls off after 60 seconds. And when you get bitch slapped, it's going to absorb... you're losing like 1,200 mana just to hopefully not die to a wreck bomb. That is horrifying. Why that is... it's horrifying for a number of reasons. Yeah, we can terminate that. It's horrifying for a number of reasons, and the main reason is Blink. It doesn't say it on here, but Blink costs about 500 mana. Blink is one of the most mana-intensive things that a mage can actually use, and will use repeatedly while fighting a paladin. What am I trying to say here? Mages only have about 650 mana in the course of a fight. They can have more if they delve into potions, but they might not 650. 6,500 mana, and that includes their mana gem. So they come base to the party with about a 6,000 mana pool, and they can pump that up with a mana gem by like about 500. So they got about 6,500. Blink is not messing around at how much mana it takes away when it's taking away 500 mana. About the only mana efficient thing a paladin actually has is their base damage spell, whatever the hell that is. So if it's Scorch, Fireball, or Frost Bolt, those are the only things they can really cast that are mana efficient. Everything else is kind of really intensive on the mana. And so you don't see mana barrier used a lot because the sheer act of getting bitch slapped while having a mana barrier up, yeah, it might save their life, but it also drains like a ridiculous amount of their mana. And they need so much mana to kill a paladin, it's kind of ridiculous. Mages would have a lot easier time killing paladins if they had like a 50% deeper mana bar. But as it stands, they have to... A mage basically has to spend like 2/3 of their mana bar just to force out bubble a lot of times. And then they have to sheep you and go drink back up to full. Often they have to do like double sheeps, drink back up to full, and then go at you again just to try to get like your PvP trinket or any other defensives that you have. That'll cost them another 2/3 of their mana bar. Then they have to sheep you and rinse and repeat the process. And then you finally die. So real big mana issues trying to kill a paladin. Okay. Let's talk about actually how to beat them. So their primary defensive setup. No. Let's not talk about how to beat them yet. Let's talk about how not to die to a mage. Let's start there. Okay, so in many a video, I'm always telling you guys, let me make sure I'm recording here just in case some crazy stuff is happening. Haven't been pressing P anytime soon, so that'll be nice. What are we doing here? Okay. So in a lot of videos, I always tell you guys, you know, hit your breakpoints, hit your HP breakpoints, HP breakpoints, HP breakpoints. Well, there are only 2 classes in the game that are actually dictating what the hell a paladin's HP breakpoint is at any point in time during the life cycle of World of Warcraft Classic. And those classes are Elemental Shaman and Mage. All right? And what the hell is a breakpoint? A breakpoint is when you have enough HP that you survive the enemy's shenanigans with, you know, less than 100 HP, but definitely survive you will. So it costs the enemy an entirely another spell cast in order to kill you. If you don't reach your HP breakpoint, life versed these very bursty classes is just a nightmare. When you do have your HP breakpoint, you survive their burst, and then you either heal to full or counterattack and delete them, like one of the two. But you need the HP in order to survive basically their burst combo. So we're going to talk about the Mage burst combo here and why you need your HP breakpoints. HP breakpoints vary based upon what phase of Classic World of Warcraft it is. So for example, in phase 1, your HP breakpoint is about 4,000, somewhere between 4,200 and 4,400 HP. Which you can easily reach with rank 10 gear. By the time you're in phase 2, so, you know, Marshals is out and all that stuff, your HP breakpoint goes up a little bit more. It's like 4,600. By the time you get in tier 2, your HP breakpoint is around 5,000. And then around about Nax, AQ and Nax is when it spikes. AQ and Nax, your breakpoint becomes 5,200-ish is the minimum breakpoint. It's also important to realize, again, I made so many videos on this, there are actually 2 breakpoints. One is, can I survive the burst on average? Like, not on average, but, like, can I survive the burst if the burst doesn't high roll and get like an extra critical or something like that, right? So for example, if you get burst on by an Elemental Shaman, our HP breakpoint factors in that, yeah, 2 of those spells might crit us, and we're accounting for that. But if 3 spells crit us, we're not accounting for that. We're just going to explode. And the same thing happens with the Mage here. So the Mage burst is almost always going to consist of like 2 frost bolts. It's either 2 frost bolts and 2 fire blasts, or 2 frost bolts, a fire blast, and a cone of cold. And then we sit there and we're like, okay, if 2 of these spells crit, we're going to survive no problem. If both ice, if the 2 crits are both the frost bolts, then we're going to die horribly at 5,200 HP. Unless we get a resist on the fire or the frost, I mean the cone of cold to make up for it. But we can see that coming, right? We can see the two frostbolts hit us. We can see them both crit. We can recognize the direness of the situation, and it'll just force out a defensive cooldown, so it's not that big of a deal. However, when you hit the second tier of breakpoint, which in Nax would be like 5,600, so the first tier is like 5,200. The second HP breakpoint is 5,600, somewhere around there. Basically, what happens at that point is now you're surviving like 3 crits. So, for example, if one of the Frostbolt crits and both the Fire Blast and the Cone of Cold crit, you will still be alive rather than dead, which is nice, but it's not as important as, you know, surviving the 2 crits. That might sound insane. Like, keep in mind, most mages only have, like, they've got like a 35% crit chance, and we're already giving them, like, you know, 2 of your spells crit out of your 4 spell burst, right? I mean, yeah, so very, very rare you're just going to die horribly due to RNG. Okay, so how to survive versus a mage. It really depends on what spec you are as a paladin, but generally speaking, well, we're going to talk about survival if you're just in general gear, like you're just in standard all-comers PvP gear. The thing to do is you cast Freedom on yourself, and then you start healing yourself, like Flash of Light, Holy Light, whatever the heck it is. You then eat the counterspell, which we have right here, right? So it locks your school of holy magic for 10 seconds, and this is where things are super deadly. But you already cast Freedom on yourself, and because you have Freedom on yourself, you basically just run in the opposite direction. So the mage is going to be like, you know, 30 yards away from you, casting Frostbolts or something at you, Scorch or whatever. You're healing yourself. They might finish their spell cast and then counterspell you. Or they might just stop their spell cast and counterspell you immediately and go into another spell cast. But keep in mind, you cast Freedom on yourself, you're healing, you get spell locked, you just run the hell away from them. And in the course of running away from them, what'll happen is, so let's say they finish their Frostbolt and then they counterspelled you. And then you turn and you run. Well, the mage knows that he can't finish a 2-second spell cast Frostbolt. I'm not even sure they're 2 seconds. I think they're 2.5 second spellcast Frostbolts. Before you run out of range. Your movement speed is going to be really important to talk about during the course of this fight, so let's tell you what it is. Movement speed in Classic World of Warcraft is 8 yards a second base. So it's actually 8 yards a second plus an additional like 8% movement speed from your boots. So more accurately, it's like 8.64 yards a second in Classic World of Warcraft. But we're going to talk about it in terms of 8 yards a second, okay? Unless I need to get specific. There is no way in hell a mage can finish a Frostbolt while you're running full speed away from them at 20 yards, at 30 yards. It's just not going to happen, right? It takes them 2.5 seconds to cast. That is not happening. However, what the mage can do is the mage can use Blink to help them close the distance. So usually what they'll do is they'll finish the Frostbolt, then counterspell you, you start running away. They'll Blink to close the distance. They'll run with you they'll Fire Blast. They'll run with you a little while. They'll Fire Blast you. They'll run with you a little bit more. And then they will give you another Ice Bolt and possibly another Fire Blast, not necessarily in that order. So let's say you just ran away in a straight line. Well, what they're going to do is they're going to Blink after you. They're going to Fire Blast you. They're going to run with you a little bit more because Fire Blast has like an 8-second cooldown. They're going to Fire Blast you again and try to get off one more Frostbolt. They can get off one more Frostbolt before you can get a heal in, basically, right? So they'll just keep running after you. They'll Fire Blast you twice, so keep in mind you're out of Counterspell now. So you've taken 1 Frostbolt, 2 Fire Blasts, you've been running away in a straight line. The moment Counterspell ends, you stop and you go for a heal. But they're going to know Counterspell's about to end, so they just start up their Frostbolt immediately. Again, Fire Blast is an 8-second cooldown, right? So usually they can get in these 2 frost bolts on you and like these 2 fire blasts on you. If they started this whole combo a little bit more point blank, so like the blink gets them a lot closer, there may or may not be a cone of cold involved here, but it just doesn't work too well. All right, so anyways, that's why their combo is that way, and that's basically how you survive it. Freedom yourself, run away in the opposite direction. Freedom yourself, heal, eat the counter spell, run away in a straight line, and you'll begin to notice that mages have one hell of a hard time actually finishing you off, killing you as a paladin. If you're running at them while counterspelled, you're screwing it up. All right, so that's the short version. Fire mages are a little bit different, but if they're not standing still and casting scorches into you, it's pretty much the same deal. Fire mages, however, hate fire resist. We can come back to that later. And they're super easy to kill. So against a fire mage, they're like attacking you. You heal yourself. You eat the counter spell. You start running away in a straight line. If they blink at you, dear God, give them an ice block check. Like turn around and be like, yo, homie, do you have ice block? Because if they don't have ice block, then you'll just delete them out of existence. They'll be like, oh, crap, is it running at me? It's only 10 yards. Oh, shit, dead. So they have to be careful about that. But usually they'll get like a couple scorches on you, blink, do a fire blast or 2, get another scorch in. It's the exact same combo kind of a thing. All right, so that's how to survive. If you're in generic gear. The other way, of course, to survive is to wear resistance suits. And this is where beating them in the 1v1 duel or possibly 1v1 open world. Oh, God, we got to talk about that. So beating a mage in a duel is different than beating a mage in the open world. Resistance suits are almost exclusively for duels. You can use them in open world versus mages, but you usually have better options for fighting mages in the open world than needing a specific resistance suit. That being said, paladins only need resistance suits for mages specifically. And they only really need a frost resistance suit specifically. Any other class in the game you can beat without needing a resistance suit. That includes warlocks, that includes shadow priests, that includes elemental shamans, and yes, that does include fire mages. So, for example, my default Reckoning build Paladin, it's got... my default Reckoning build Paladin is like Hand of Rag. Oh, this is Holy Reckoning. Hand of Rag with... damn it. Whatever. TLDR is 2,000. It hits the HP breakpoint of 2,200 HP. It has 190 fire resist. Enough fire resist that has a 50% chance to resist grenades being thrown at it, which is ridiculous. It has enough burst in the bomb that it has like a 1 in 3 chance to delete mages, even a frost mage, out of existence in the wreck bomb, which is pretty good for the amount of survivability. And it can beat any other class in the game with that gear, no problem. And you can see with 190 fire resist, it's not going to struggle against fire mages at all. The only thing it would possibly struggle against is a frost mage, and we're about to talk about that right now. The reason why... So you can do a resist suit thing, and I can talk to you about how to get into resist suits and where to get into resist suits. But usually resist suits are just for duels. And the main reason for that is because out in open world PvP, you have these lovely things called Paladin pets. And what a Paladin pet is it's basically just any mob that you encounter while you're fighting the mage. Just put some aggro on them. This becomes infinitely easier if you have like consecration, for example. It's because you can just rank 1 consecrate and run at the mage, and you'll just be dragging a mob behind you into oblivion. But in open world PvP, it becomes very easy to counter sheep, just because you can piss off the mobs and have the mobs, counter sheep for you. You'll get dazed every once in a while, which can be really annoying. But it basically makes it impossible for the mage to kill you. Mages have to sheep you. If a mage cannot kill you in the burst, and they cannot sheep you, they cannot beat you as a paladin. And the reason for that is because they just don't have the mana. Again, it costs them 2/3 of their mana bar, typically, just to get out your bubble. And that's under, like, dueling conditions. If they're not allowed to sheep you because there's a damn mob that's just stopping you from being sheeped, they just cannot gain enough mana during the course of a fight to ever actually beat you. And they'll kind of just lose in open world PvP or die horribly. Subsequently, resistance suit isn't super needed. But let's talk about an actual PvP conditions. So the easiest place to get in... God, there's so much to talk about with Mage. This is so annoying. We are going to be here a while, boys. Holy crap. Let me guess. If I look at the time of this recording, we're already like 30, 40... Yeah, Jesus. All right, we're going to be here a while. There's just too much to talk about. I get a drink of water. Who here knows what heartbeat duration is? Or a heartbeat break is? Alright, so there are certain CCs in World of Warcraft that are so long that they're subject to a special thing called heartbeat duration. Heartbeat duration, you see this in Rogue's Sap. I think basically it's any CC that lasts longer than 10 seconds is usually subject to heartbeat duration. Mage's Sheep is subject to heartbeat duration, or Rogue's Sap is subject to heartbeat duration, and the last one that comes to mind is Hunter Scattershot is subject to heartbeat duration. Notice all of those CC abilities are longer than 10 seconds. Basically how heartbeat duration works is after 10 seconds has taken place, there's an escalating, at least I think it's 10 seconds, there's an escalating chance, a very small but very rapidly escalating chance for the CC to just break randomly. All right? What this means is, and I'm sure you've noticed this, the sheep might say you're sheep for 40 seconds, but you'll notice that you're breaking out of it around about 30 seconds, 25 seconds, and it seems kind of random, right? Fear is also subject to heartbeat durations. Like when warlocks fear you and you're running around for 1,000,000 years, it's actually longer than 10 seconds, so it's subject to heartbeat duration. And that heartbeat duration, it's also subject to any damage you're taking can break you out of it. It has a chance, right? So what you'll see mages do is they'll sheep you and then they'll eat and drink. They sheep you and they have to wait 10 seconds and then they eat and drink. But a lot of them will stand back up even before your sheep breaks, and they'll wand you and they'll like re-sheep you. And then they'll wait another 10 seconds and then they'll sit down to eat and drink again. And what they're attempting to play around there specifically is heartbeat duration. They don't want you gear swapping on them. They don't want you getting into a resist suit. But that's really high level mage play. A lot of mages, they just sheep you and they start eating and drinking, and you can end up with heartbeat duration. Even the high tier mages, they end up risking heartbeat duration because they'll actually let you... They'll let that sheep last like... they'll let the first sheep last like 25 seconds, and then they'll let the second sheep last like until it breaks, basically, right? Or at least about 20 seconds or so. But it's... The tankier you are and the harder it is for you to kill, the more often you're going to get broken out of sheep due to a heartbeat duration. And any breaking out of a sheep in a heartbeat duration is basically an instant gear swap for you. So you can have like a macro, or you can have an add-on that where you just click a button, like shift, click, button, and the next thing you know, you're in a resist suit just because heartbeat duration broke. If you don't want to rely on heartbeat duration, then it's very easy to use PvP trinket. You get into a sheep, you're like, oh shit, I'm in a sheep. You let them eat and drink. You PvP trinket the sheep. You gear swap into the resist suit, including replacing the now expended PvP trinket, and you're off to the races. So there are very easy ways to get into resist suit if resist suit play is what you want to do. But it gets kind of interesting from there. All right, so now we're going to talk about how specifically to kill a mage in duels. And I want you to realize that all the tips and tricks I'm about to talk about in the duel translate into open world PvP, but differently. And what I mean by this is, in open world PvP, when you get jumped by a mage, there's a really good chance that you're going to be in a default PvP gear set, right? And subsequently, which may or may not include a PvP trinket. And subsequently, you might be like, okay, do I have, are there any Paladin pets that I can use in the area? Do I need to use my PvP trinket to swap into a resist suit? Does this mage know about heartbeat duration? Can I just wait for him to screw up with the heartbeat duration and then I can just get into my resist suit? Like, what is my tactical scenario? It's much more of a tactical scenario type setup. And because Paladin pets exist, you don't have to go to the... We are about to go full savant level autistic retard. I have no words to describe the level of tryhard that we are about to engage in order to beat Mage in a 1v1 duel, like, tournament environment scenario. This is some holy fuckballs epic style. This is pure autism, okay? This is levels of autism that I would normally see come out of Drakova in, like, a Skype call or something like that, right? So prepare your butts. So I'm just going to start talking, and hopefully you'll understand what the translation is all about. Oh, there's another way to gear swap on a mage that's super important to realize. Okay, let's talk about the instant cast abilities that mages have at range, that they can hit you with. You only have to be out of combat for 6 seconds in order to gear swap. So if you're running away from a mage in a straight line, what the hell do they have to keep you in combat? Because whatever it is, it would have to be instant cast effectively. Yes, they can cast like rank 1 Frostbolt pretty quickly. They can wand you pretty quickly. But it's not like you don't have a 6-second stun. So if they like blink after you and then you turn around and you stun them for 6 seconds and you keep running away, it is super hard for a mage to keep you in combat if you just keep running away in a straight line. But this is more like open world PvP stuff. A little bit of application in duels because it's hard to run away in a straight line for an extended period of time. But it's important to realize that they only got Fire Blast. And Fire Blast is on an 8-second cooldown. And you only need 6 seconds to get out of combat. So the sheer act of you just running away in a straight line usually means that you can gear swap into a resist suit on a mage. If we are talking, again, Drakova levels of autism here, you can use the Zandalari, I think it's the Zandalari Freethinker's neck piece. It's the ZG Paladin specific neck piece that increases the duration of our Hand of Justice stun by 0.5 seconds. You can wear that. It's got decent stats. You can wear that thing, stun somebody for 6.5 seconds. You can actually double Holy Light heal yourself and gear swap on in a mage's face with that neck piece, including gear swapping out of the neck piece, right? They used to use it. Before they can even counterspell you, or fire blast you, which are the fastest possible things that a mage can do to get you back into combat. 6.5 seconds is plenty of time to do that. We've tested it. Me and Drakova tested it before. It works perfectly. So yeah, if you have that neck piece on in your generic gear set, then the next thing you know, you're like, oh, is it a mage? Let me just run away in a straight line. They blink after you, you turn around, stun them for 6.5 seconds. They're in a scenario where they have to ice block, cancel. They have to double ice block, practically. They would have to ice block, put you in combat, and then ice block again to avoid getting absolutely deleted because you're just standing there looking at them while they're in their ice block, right? Which is never going to happen. Blink, you turn around, stun them for 6.5 seconds. They ice block relatively quickly. They're sitting for the full duration of that ice block until their blink comes up again. Because if they come out of the ice block for any reason, you just touch them and they die. So, congratulations, you're getting a gear swap. That's another place where you get to gear swap on mages. Ice block, blink, blink, ice block is the combination that mages typically use to survive against paladins, right? You'll notice that blink, ice block, blink, ice block. You'll notice that ice block is on a 15-second cooldown, and then ice block only lasts 10 seconds. So you're thinking to yourself, you know, if I get to them quickly enough when they're ice blocked, you know, maybe I can force out a double ice block or just kill them, because I'm forcing them to come out of the ice block before their blink is ready, and I'm just going to touch them with a wreck bomb, and they're going to die. That is actually a viable tactic that we're going to be talking about, but it's important to realize that most mages worth their salt will have their 3-set PvP bonus, which is what I got right here. And you can see it reduces the time of blink by 1.5 seconds. If they have the PvP set bonus, yeah, by that time, it's just not happening. Because at that point, you know, this is, what, 13.5 seconds? And it's another, basically, between that and the GCD, blinks on like a 12-second cooldown, right? Practically. So all they have to do is hold off on ice block for like 2 seconds, and they're good to go. But it's important to realize that if you get them in a scenario where they're forced to ice block right after they've blinked, and then you physically get on top of them. So usually how that'll look is you like goblin mortared them, or you grenaded them right after a blink. They have 2 options. They can ice block, cancel, and keep running. That's the high level thing to do. Or they can ice block and sit out the full duration and wait for blink to come back up. That's infinitely more common. But if they're doing that, then that is a gear swap opportunity for you, because obviously it's going to be longer than 6 seconds, blah, 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 blah. It's also a bit of a gear swapping opportunity for the mage that you can't really do anything about. I don't know if running up and hitting the ice block or anything like that, putting it into combat like bubble, would stop them from potentially gear swapping. It's not that big of a deal if they gear swap. I mean, everything is about getting out their ice blocks, touching them, and then watching them explode. Not the biggest thing, not the biggest issue in the world if they mess around with that, with a gear swap on you or something. What the hell am I talking about here? But again, if they don't want you gear swapping, you're going to start seeing certain things. You're going to see mages who sheep you, drink for a bit, stand up, wand you, resheep you, sit back down and drink. That is a mage that is just screaming at you. He doesn't want you gear swapping. If you grenade him after he blinks, you'll watch him ice block, cancel, and keep running. That is a mage that is screaming. Or he'll let you get within range of like fire blast, so it'll be like, you know, ice block, wait a hot second, cancel ice block, fire blast you to keep you in combat and keep running away. That is also a mage that is absolutely screaming that they do not want you to gear swap. 1 second, we pause the video. Okay, we are back. Get a little drink of water in here. All right, so number one way to kill a mage, or first way to kill a mage, would be cause them to run out of mana and then kill them. There are multiple ways to do that. Paladin pets are very useful for that. If you don't actually have paladin pets, we got Book of the Dead down here, and then the Grimstone or Cornerstone. These summon skeletons. The skeletons have like 4,000, what is it? Like 4,600 HP. They've got like 100 DPS. They're actually, you can heal them. You can put Blessing of Sanctuary on them. Not Blessing of Sanctuary, Blessing of Sacrifice on them. All kinds of nasty stuff. So basically, if you summon one of these skeletons, you can also gear swap. Jesus, there's just so much to talk about. Oh, God. All right, 1 second. So much to talk about. And I haven't even gotten to the, here's actually how you kill mages in high-level duels, in like dueling tournaments for like thousands of dollars, letting them have no chance whatsoever, 0 fun allowed. I haven't even gotten to that combination yet. We're still just dicking around with, here's how you kill them under these circumstances. Here's how you kill them under that circumstance. Here's what you can do here. Here's what you can, so yeah, you can run them out of mana. And then if you still, basically what you do, especially as Reckoning Paladins, is, let's say you get into a resist suit, what you'll do is you'll like sit into a resist suit with like your two-hander that you're going to eventually wreck bomb them with. Then you'll just survive all their nonsense until they run out of mana. Then at the nearest gear swapping opportunity, you'll gear swap into a DPS set and then give them the good news, meaning that you touch them and they die. Because they don't have any mana, that's a really big problem. That strategy is infinitely better if you have Paladin pets to back you up, like open world Paladin pets. These skeleton summons don't work all that well with it. They work extremely well to run the mage out of mana, but they don't work very well with the whole I need a two-handed to have a wreck bomb thing, because you can't have a one-hander and you know, summon the skeletons. But what you can do is you can summon the skeletons and then swap into a two-hander or in a shield or whatever the hell else you want, and the skeleton will still be there available for you. It's also important to realize that you can summon these books back to back. So, for example, if I summon my Book of the Dead, the skeleton will last a minute, and it puts a minute cooldown timer on the Grimstone. So you can actually have two of these Pally pets out back to back, which is absolutely terrifying and horrible for the Mage mana bar. The reason why this is horrible for the Mage mana bar, someone please kill me, there's too much to talk about here. The reason why this is horrible for the Mage mana bar is specifically you can heal them. That's not super important. What's really nasty is you can put Blessing of Sacrifice on them. So Blessing of Sacrifice lasts 30 seconds. Any damage they do to basically it causes like 50 points of damage that's done to the target to get reflected to the Paladin instead, which will break you out of things like sheep. So what'll happen is the mage will want to sheep you and drink, right? He's got your bubble, he wants to sheep, he wants to drink, and then you summon one of these damn skeleton pets on him, and you put Blessing of Sacrifice on it. And the mage is like, okay, well the Paladin's sheeped, but I got this damn skeleton that if I do any damage to it whatsoever, the Paladin's going to break out of the sheep. And this skeleton pet is basically like a level 56 mob that you would find in Eastern kingdoms. It has exactly plus 15% movement speed. How do I know this? Well, because when I play TBC, and my Paladin has plus 15% move speed, these things have this exact same move speed that I do when I'm running away from them or dealing with them out in the open world in general. Like, this is literally like a skeleton warrior mob from Eastern Plaguelands. Like, no joke. Level 56 and everything. So they got like 4,600 HP. So basically the mage can't CC the skeleton at all. Like, it can't sheep the skeleton because that'll break the Paladin out of the sheep. It can't, like, a Frost Nova it, because Frost Nova actually does, like, 25 damage, which will break the Paladin out of the sheep. The thing is fast as fuck. It won't let the mage drink. It won't let the mage gear swap all that well. Not that that really matters. Mages really don't care about gear swapping. All the mage can do is just let the skeleton run up and hit them, and try to use the slow from being hit to minimize the amount of damage they take from this stupid skeleton pet. And they can that's basically the only option they have. The other option they can do is to try to nuke the skeleton pet out of existence, which sometimes works for them and sometimes doesn't work for them. They really need to get like some criticals going, because again, they got to get the damn what am I trying to say here? Yeah, they can try to nuke it, but the moment they touch it with any kind of damage, the Paladin's going to come out of the sheep, right? They might have counterspell up at that point, so they'll try to nuke the pet. You'll come out of the sheep and start running and try to heal the pet. They counterspell you. They finish killing the pet. Then they turn around and go for a sheep on you. And then they desperately need a drink. But that whole process is going to cost an absolute shit ton of mana. And it can turn into a nightmare scenario for them if you got anything else going on, like we're about to talk about. Like, Tidal Charm can fuck them at that point. Goblin Mortar can really screw them over at that point. Gnomish Mind Control Cap, Goblin Rocket Helm. If you got any of the stuff that we're about to talk about in the No Fun Allowed, here's how to kill a mage, 100% guaranteed scenario, that's some risky shit right there. And it gets worse because there's like 2 of these damn skeletons, right? So you can waste enough mana on a mage, even under dueling conditions with these stupid skeletons, that they just hate life. It's particularly good with, the skeletons are particularly good with Deep Holy Paladins. So Deep Holy is by far the worst build to take on a mage. Most Deep Holy Paladins are lovers of Deep Holy. This means you have Holy Shock, right? They basically just accept that they can't kill mages, so they just kind of play to not be able to die to mages. So, for example, they'll run around in a resist suit and just roll their eyes when they get jumped by a mage, swap into their resist suit, and be like, all right, I can't kill you, but you can't kill me. Fuck off. However, they actually can kill them, I think. Like, this is pure theoretical on my part, but if you're using double... okay, so specifically you'd want to use... Okay, hear me out on this, you Deep Holy Paladins. Specifically, we're using... major Recombobulator Ray. That's a trinket. We are using... what's the other thing? Possibly Tidal Charm. Okay, so we got Tidal Charm, maybe Goblin Mortar if Tidal Charm is on cooldown, and we're using Major Recombobulator Ray, and we're also going to be using our Holy Shock, right? Now, what the hell am I talking about here, Paladin? What the fuck are you bringing up this random crazy nonsense for? It's like, well, the only way a Deep Holy Paladin can ever kill a mage is in the ooming scenario, because they can never jump on top of them and just do so much damage that the mage has a problem, right? The mage can literally just face tank types like /laugh like 5 times and then sheep a Holy Paladin. The only way Holy Paladins actually kill mages is if they actually completely go out of mana, and then the Holy Paladin is on top of them just beating the crap out of them. So we're talking about how to do that right now. So if you do a skeleton pet summon on a mage, what'll end up happening is, like I said, they won't be able to drink for 1,000,000 years, and if they try to time out the skeleton summon, there's another damn skeleton summon behind it, which means the mage at that point is looking at not being able to drink for literally 2 minutes. And they know they're dealing with a Deep Holy Paladin, so that's not really an issue. So very quickly, it becomes, especially against Deep Holy Paladins, mages will come to the conclusion that the best possible thing for them to do is just to try to kill the pet. Well, then the question becomes, what if we don't let them kill the pet? We let them waste all the mana trying to kill the pet, but we actually don't let them kill the pet. What happens then? Well, okay, so for example, your Holy Shock, we know, can heal the pet for like about 700 hit points. Okay, reasonable. We know that if we have enough spell power, and we're probably running around plus 400 healing. Actually, it's more than that. Who am I kidding? Your plus healing on a Holy Shock Paladin under these type of combat circumstances is probably like, Jesus, it's probably close to 500 if I'm thinking about it. Yeah, so your Holy Shock's going to heal for like 800. Your Major Recombobulator Ray heals for like 500 base, plus 100% of your spell power to you or something. It's like another Holy Shock, basically, on a 5-minute cooldown, right? The PvP trinket. So your Major Recombobulator Ray will end up healing the pet for another 1,000, which means, and you can even do that even if you're counterspelled, which means if they're trying to burst down the skeleton, they'll break you out of sheep. You start running over there, you Holy Shock them, you Major Recombobulator Ray, you're healing that skeleton for like 1,800 damage without breaking a sweat. And we have an entire another PvP trinket left over. So it's not going to die. The mage is going to be like, what the fuck? What the hell healed this piece of shit for like 1,800 hit points? What the hell just happened? You then go for like an actual heals into the damn thing. Well, technically, you rebuff the Blessing of Sacrifice. Then you start going. He'll start going for heals again. No, I'm saying you try to heal it. You catch a counter spell. Now you can't do anything, right? Assuming you needed the double heal in this scenario. Except you can still do grenades, and you can still do Goblin Mortar, and you can still do Tidal Charm. You can also still do super annoying things that we're about to talk about, such as Gnomish Mind Control Cap and Goblin Rocket Helm. You can do all kinds of annoying ass shit to continue to keep this damn skeleton alive. And the mage just isn't going to have enough mana. Like, I'm telling you right now, they're gonna use like 2/3 of their mana bar just trying to kill you. Then they're gonna use like almost all their mana trying to kill this pet, to the point where they're gonna be virtually completely out of mana. Even you sitting there and counterspell and just chucking a grenade at them is going to kill the vast majority of mages, and I'm not joking. The other scenario, of course, is you Tidal Charm, right? You come out of the he's trying to kill your skeleton. You get broken out of sheep. You run over there. You Tidal Charm him for like 3 seconds. The mage's options are, well, he has to Ice Block cancel. He doesn't want to, but he has to. It would be Ice Block cancel and then try to counterspell you if you're going for a heal, right? That would be his play. The best possible play. But keep in mind, we just traded... We're trading one of our skeleton summons for an ice block. Well, technically we traded Tidal Charm and one of our skeleton summons for an ice block. Grenade, you can also be fast enough on the grenade to get this off. Goblin Mortar is plenty fast enough to get this off. This isn't really that big of a deal. You could also cancel your heal if you see ice block. If they're a little slow on the ice block, cancel, counterspell. That's a hard thing to pull off. So once you see the ice block go out, you just stop casting, and you can usually eat a counter spell. It's kind of like a fake cast. It's kind of funny. Even if they do get the counter spell on you, you should have Holy Shocked already, right? So you Holy Shock and then go for the heal, then you eat the counter spell. Your Major Recombobulator trinket, it will still heal them for 1,000. So that's not the end of the world. You still have Grenade that you can throw their way. It's just like, what the hell? And then on top of that, you got another skeleton summon. You can do it all over again. But you have to wait quite a while. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do, but let's talk about the no fun scenario. But anyways, how Deep Holy beats mages is you got to use the skeleton summons, and more often than not, you need both of them. I know this is a really low drop rate, but it's Strat Live. It's not a bad drop rate at all for Strat Live, because you can make a lot of gold going into Strat Live. You know, just make it your gold farm pretty early on, that you go for the righteous orbs, and you just make it so that, hey, a Book of the Dead drops. Yeah, Paladin Prio on Book of the Dead. Gotta oom them. All right, so let's talk about the other things. Oh, I'm trying to say you need both of them, because the first skeleton summon ends up being such cancer for them that's what starts forcing them to ice block, and they'll end up surviving the first skeleton summon pretty much just through ice blocks alone, and then the second skeleton summon is what they just can't handle and is what they die to. That's Deep Holy though. All right, so let's talk about this other shenanigans. So I'm no longer talking about Deep Holy. We are now talking about there's thousands of dollars on the line in a dueling tournament. You're either a Deep Ret Paladin, specifically Control Ret, or you're some type of Reckoning Paladin, either Holy or Ret Reckoning. And you want to win versus a mage, and you want to give the mage as little to no chance as possible in order to win. Okay. Well, the most important thing to realize is that a mage that does not have ice blocks is dead. There are so many things that kill a mage that doesn't have ice blocks, it's actually kind of ridiculous. You can even kill mages quite easily when they're like below 20% life, so you have Hammer of Wrath available, and they don't have any ice blocks. So let's say, let me put a hypothetical here for you, okay? Because this is how Holy Reckoning tends to kill mages. So I might make this a 2-part video. Yeah. That's a good question. Okay, yeah. I'm gonna stop the video right here for the ease of uploading. And then I'm immediately gonna start talking about the second part, the actual dueling no fun allowed part. But yeah, just in case I'm cock teasing you guys too much here. What the hell was I trying to say? Yeah, the Hammer of Wrath thing. So how Holy Mages kill, Holy Reckoning kills mages, even though we don't have a strong enough Wreck Bomb to just delete them outright. If they drop below 20% health, the next thing we know, we have Hammer of Wrath available. This starts causing all kinds of problems for mages. It'll start forcing out ice blocks, and if they don't have ice blocks, they die. The reason for this is because Sheep has a cast time of 1.5 seconds and a 30-yard range. And Hammer of Wrath has a cast time of 1 second and a 30-yard range. Okay, you following me on this? So what this means is if they're casting Sheep and I just run away a little bit, they can't get the Sheep off. And if I step inside of Hammer of Wrath range and I start chucking a Wrath at them and they start sheeping me, my Wrath is going to get off before their Sheep gets off. So I'll get sheeped, but then this, 600, 700 holy damage spell is coming their way. And as we talked about before, they usually only have like 4,200 HP, which means this thing is going to come and do even more damage to them. So if you have anything else going on for you as a Paladin, like if you have PvP Trinket, if you have Tidal Charm or Goblin Mortar still available to you, or you did like some gear swaps, or you're just waiting on some stuff, or freaking skeleton summons running around, it's an absolute nightmare for them. Skeleton summons super kill them at that point, because what you end up doing is you actually don't put Blessing of Sacrifice on them at that point. You just put Freedom on your pet, and you just let the pet run them down and start punching them with like their 100 DPS when they're sub 20% life. And at that point, they're like, I need to sheep the mage. Like they can't sheep the skeleton pet at that point, because the sheer act of them sheeping the pet causes you to cleanse the pet. Your cleanse has a 40-yard range. Their sheep has a 20-yard range. I mean, not 20, a 30-yard range, well, and a 1.5 second cast. So they're desperate to sheep you. They can't get the pet off them. Usually what ends up happening under that circumstance, like, okay, so the circumstance we're talking about now is we have a mage who is below 20% life. He's got to deal with a skeleton summon that has Freedom on it. And there is a highly intelligent Paladin lurking around at about the 30-yard range, just looking to Hammer of Wrath him. Okay? Every time you go for a Hammer of Wrath, if he starts going for a sheep on you, you just stop the Hammer of Wrath and you back up. You waste his time. And the skeleton pet just keeps punching him the entire time, right? So if he tries to sheep the skeleton pet, which he can do, the skelly, your cleanse has a 40-yard range. Right, so you just cleanse it. Yeah, whatever, cleanse, and the skeleton pet just keeps on chunking him. So the only solution to that problem that the mage can do is to blink towards the Paladin, which will give him enough range to effectively sheep the Paladin. So he'll blink towards you. 1.5 seconds will pass. Then he'll try to get a sheep on you. This is plenty of time, however, for you to both get a Wrath into him. And to, I don't think Wrath causes GCD. I could be wrong. You could put Blessing of Sacrifice on the pet if you wanted to avoid the sheep. But usually for me, it's like, hey, if he's in stun range, I'm going to stun him. If I got anything else going on, I'm going to do this or that. Usually I just Wrath him right then and there. In the face, and then I just eat the sheep, and I let the pet do his thing. because at that point he still has to try to turn around and kill the pet or to keep running away from the pet. But again, the pet is fast as fuck. And then eventually he'll like snare the pet or something. But I'm probably going to come out of the sheep. There's some. That's the only way he survives, is what I'm trying to say. The only way he survives is he blinked towards you and he successfully gets the sheep off. But he's going to eat a wrath for his troubles. Hammer of Wrath, when it crits, it does double damage, if you didn't know. So the reason why I usually just go for the wrath right then and there is because I know there's a high percentage chance that my wrath is just going to crit. There's like a 7-8% chance with my build that the wrath will crit. If you're holy shock or something, it's much, much higher. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't think our free crit works on wrath. I'm pretty sure I would know that if it happened. Is it next holy spell? One sec. Let me go check. Let me pause the video. Maybe I'm sleeping on something here. Yeah, no, it's Flash of Light, Holy Light, and Holy Shock. Okay, cool. I was like, well, if it's Wrath, then GG's, you just die here. But yeah, so I just usually throw the spell because I'm like, you know, 7% chance Mage just explodes, because if this thing crits, he's just gone. Otherwise, it like usually hits them for like 800 damage, which is still a ridiculous amount, and there's usually a good chance they die to the pet. But the reason why it's super deadly for them when they fall below 20% life is because if you have anything else, going on, they're dead. What if you have Bubble? You're forcing out multiple ice blocks, or they're dead. What if you have Goblin Mortar still? You're forcing out multiple ice blocks, or they're dead. Right? Because at that point, you're like, stun, wrath, run away a little bit. And they're like, well, I need to sheep you. And you're like, I'm not sheeping you until I get this second hammer off. And it's the second hammer that's going to kill them. Like 100% guaranteed. The first hammer just has like if it crits, they die, right? And they're just like, well, shit. And if you have PvP Trinket, is a really good one that kills them, because you wrath them, they sheep you, and then they stand around waiting to try to eat and drink or bandage or something. But then you're just like, you know, PvP Trinket, and you get another wrath into them, and they're just like, oh my god. So if you have anything left, they just die. So that's pretty cool. All right, let me end the video here, and I'll start up the next one, and we'll talk about the no fun allowed, 100% guaranteed to kill mages scenario.